Is really hard to look at, John, right now. I mean, first of all, you do see a somewhat of a downward trend there, but I can tell you, like, even here in Atlanta, things were starting to reopen 2 weeks ago. It doesn't mean that things just suddenly went back to normal 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of people who still aren't doing that. We're still, in a very different sort of state of affairs. Even though things are open, doesn't mean people are all going out. I realize I saw some of the images at restaurants last night, and I know people are starting to do it more and more. But I still think there's a lag period here, and we just got to account for that lag period. Also, I mean, it's kind of like TV ratings, John. You look, you're doing TV ratings in Colorado. 3 guys go up and go to the bathroom, and your TV ratings drop. In Colorado, you're getting such a small sample size to inform that graph that we're seeing there. I think we got to be careful in trying to read into those numbers too much. It's day to day. It's small sample sizes. Weekends will suddenly drop because people aren't getting tested. All those things influence this. So we'll go over the weekend. We'll say, look, the numbers dropped even more. Well, that's because fewer people are getting tested over the weekend. That's just the nature of people going into clinics and getting their visits in hospitals and stuff. So we'll see. I don't want to be the person who is raining on the parade, but I think you just got to wait a little bit longer and make sure that these trends continue.
Sanjay, I want to get your take on The Lancet. They have just released an editorial in which this is unusual, I would imagine, for a prestigious medical journal, but they basically say that they think that the United States needs a new president come January of 2021 because they think that President Trump has so minimized and so marginalized the CDC and mishandled this pandemic that they are basically suggesting that it's dangerous under his leadership. In terms of the CDC, they write the CDC has seen its role minimized and become an ineffective and nominal advisor in the response to contain the spread of the virus. What do you think of what they're saying and the significance?
It's a strongly worded article. I mean, this is a prestigious medical journal, one that we all read since we're medical students on a regular basis. I mean, there have been times in the past where they've released editorials that have been more in the political sphere, but this is a strongly worded article, and I think that they're sort of making 2 points. First of all, that it has become increasingly politicized. The CDC director is a political appointee. And also, I think what they're also saying, interestingly, is that scientists have become more compliant in some ways as well. And that was the part that I think was even, more surprising. Yes, there's a political influence on this very scientific organization. It's been around since 1946, help eradicate diseases off the face of the earth like smallpox. And yet, you're not seeing the scientists sort of step up and say, we need our own autonomy, we need to be independent, we can't have political influence over us. So it's a very strongly worded article. I mean, I think a lot of people in the public health world have been sort of saying this for some time. Where has the CDC been in all this? If you go back to H1N1, it was Richard Besser who was the acting director. That's who you saw all the time. During Ebola, it was Tom Frieden. Those were the people that we saw at the forefront of the country during those outbreaks or pandemics. So we're not seeing the same thing here. And I can tell you this, because I have a lot of friends and colleagues who work there. It's not because of lack of capability. And the CDC still employs some of the world's best epidemiologists. When we look at the sort of guidelines that they could provide to try and understand how we navigate our life forward in the middle of this pandemic, people from all over the world go to this CDC. That's not happening now. Instead, we're getting these very watered down sort of guidelines from them that I don't think reflects their best work.
A couple points I want to make here, Sanjay. Number one, there were 1,700 new deaths reported yesterday, and I just don't want to gloss over that. Even when I'm asking about Georgia and the number of new cases going down, 1,700 new deaths nationwide reported. That's a very high number, even if it is dropping. Number two, nearly 86,000 people killed around the country. People need to keep that in mind, and it's interesting to me how little it gets mentioned now in some cases at the national level. And in terms of what The Lancet may have been looking at, it may have been statements like this from the president when he's talking about testing. Testing is something universally experts say is essential going forward in this country. And listen to how the president seems to diminish it.
It could be the testing's frankly overrated. Maybe it is overrated. We have more cases than anybody in the world. But why? Because we do more testing. When you test, you have a case. When you test, you find something is wrong. with people. If we didn't do any testing, we would have very few cases.
Now, people are actually getting sick because there's a virus out there. We're finding out about it because there's testing, and as you test more, you do learn about new cases. But 86,000 people haven't been killed because we're testing too much, Sanjay. And I think that's the kind of message that probably disappoints or infuriates people at The Lancet.
No doubt. I mean, you test. It has been the most important. It will be the most important. You test in order to save lives, because you can find people who have the infection. You can isolate them, and you can keep them from spreading this virus, which we know kills people. It's as simple as that. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have a super effective therapeutic right now. We wish we did, and we will one day. But I think the big question is in the interim period, what do we do? What have we seen work in the past, in the history of the world? What have we seen work in other countries around the world right now? It's all predicated on testing. And I know you sound like a broken record after a while saying that. Yeah, we've gotten better at testing. We started way late. It makes a huge difference that we started way late, because there were so many more cases that spilled out into the community as a result of waiting that late. I don't know that we can necessarily, quote, catch up now, but the fact of the matter is that we need to do more testing. People don't have the psychological confidence still to go out. Again, going back to Georgia and other states, they're opening up. But go talk to people and say, how comfortable do you feel? I know we show images of people crowding bars and stuff like that, but how about moms and dads at home with their kids who are thinking, do I go out? How safe is it? Could I bring that virus home? That is still a concern. If they could get tested and have some degree of confidence, then that would make their lives a lot easier. We're not there yet. We released guidelines yesterday that say, we want to promote hand hygiene in schools. We want to wear masks as feasible. We're not taking this seriously anymore, and we're still in the middle of it. People are declaring victory. The original draft guidelines had specifics in terms of how many tests should be on standby at businesses, how employers should make sure that their employees are safe, how that they keep their customers safe. What happened to all that? We're not taking this seriously anymore. And I think, I'm nervous. I know I'm the one who's trumpeting the horn, and I'm going to get a lot of hate mail about it because people think I'm being too gloom and doom. We're not out of this yet by any means.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, we appreciate you. We won't let anybody send hate mail.